some residents in D.C. are protesting the increased law enforcement patrolling the streets. The White House says the National Guard and other federal officers will be on duty around the clock. CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen has been following the latest for us and joins us now. Jake, we're starting to see some unrest there. What can you tell us about the immediate impact on the city, the response so far? Have we seen crime going down in just the last couple of days?
Well, it's certainly too early to tell on that front, Vlad, because you need to look at really what the effect of this full 30-day, potentially more than that, federal takeover of the city and its law enforcement really does, and whether there are addressing the root causes of crime in this city, going to the neighborhoods that actually have a lot of the daily, whether it's violent crime or drug crime throughout the city. What you just saw there in that protest was up the street from us in a historically very popular neighborhood for people to go out late at night on a Thursday and Friday. Those checkpoints are routine, but they are routine for the Metropolitan Police Department here to be operating, not for federal law enforcement like ICE and the FBI to be conducting these kind of traffic stops, which the Trump administration touted this morning were mostly actually resulting in immigration arrests, which again fits with the president's agenda, but does not necessarily actually combat this real tackling of violent crime throughout the city. You can see there the FBI touted 45 arrests yesterday. There were 43 arrests the day before. But again, these are for a number of crimes throughout the city.
Yeah, and I was sort of being facetious when I mentioned whether crime was down in the last couple of days, because obviously, even over the course of the 30 days, which is what the president is able to do under the law before requesting an extension from Congress, most analysts predict that although the presence of increased law enforcement may tamp down crime, at least during this period, once you go away, the root causes of why that crime is happening do not. But the president, of course, as you know, Jake, is doubling down. He's reiterating that crime is much worse in D.C. than the numbers actually show. And as I said, to be able to go beyond those 30 days, he does have to request Congress to do that, give him that authority. Is that something that he is considering?
Yeah, and he said it so much yesterday in taking questions from reporters. He said he will call a full national emergency to try to extend the National Guard and federal takeover in D.C. without congressional approval if he doesn't get it. That would be obviously subject to massive legal challenges and massive ramifications for how the city governs itself. But Vlad, I think the important thing to note is that there is not quite the appetite in Congress just yet for this. We saw Democrats say that they're not open to negotiating on this, and Chuck Schumer, who obviously leads Senate Democrats, saying in an no way that he's going to allow the Trump administration to come to the table to negotiate any of this, or for a bill to be passed that would kind of roll back what the D.C. laws are in terms of what a federal takeover entails. It looks like for now, Vlad, it'll be this 30-day Band-Aid and potentially a keeping of the National Guard, which President Trump does have the ability to do, but certainly more to come on this front, as there's not necessarily a tinderbox yet, but they're certainly building tensions from locals here who are just simply not happy with federal law enforcement walking through the streets.
Let me just ask you, Jake, personally, and this is something I've seen from other journalists who live in Washington, D.C. You've no doubt seen that increased presence. Just anecdotally, how does it make you feel? How does it make your friends and neighbors feel?
Well, I think the thing to notice, actually, is that I don't live on one of those high-traffic, maybe tourist-centric streets where there's going out, and I have not seen that big federal law enforcement presence. In fact, I actually didn't see any law enforcement the last couple of days walking out early in the morning to get to work and go to the gym. It's really specific to some of these corridors, and I think, Vlad, when you think about it, yes, people want extra law enforcement. Everybody wants to feel safe walking around. I think if you take a step back, however, Vlad, you want it to be in the neighborhoods that actually need it the most, and those are the most vulnerable people in this city and in every city that need that hand. And right now, it looks like it's really just for these photo ops you see, the protests, and for National Guard to be stationed along the mall so that it looks like tourists will certainly have people watching their back. That's important too, but are you actually addressing the root causes of crime? Federal officials here in D.C. that said that they're not quite worried about that. They just want to get the crime under control for now. Yeah,
so I love that point that you made, Jake, because that is the clear and direct and obvious point, which is that it is true that crime is down in Washington, D.C. from its high in 2023, and then it's been decline in 24, decline in 2025. But it does have a very high homicide rate in certain areas, and disproportionately, black and brown people who live in some of these under-resourced neighborhoods are the ones that are most often the brunt or bear the brunt of those crimes. And so the performative nature of having law enforcement on the streets is perhaps it makes perhaps some people feel good, but unless you address those root causes as to why the city, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, there are 4,000 cops in Washington, D.C., right? So even adding more police has not been able to tamp down the murder rate, which is higher than, Chicago even in some neighborhoods in Washington, D.C., because the root causes haven't been addressed.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with one point. There's actually about 3,300 because there's a gap of 800 to 700 officers that the administration here hasn't been able to fill. And the D.C. Congress, that bill, One Big Beautiful Bill, took away a lot of that funding that the city could have used to hire officers. Instead, obviously, we've seen this federal response.
Excellent reporting, excellent analysis, Jake Rosen. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.